"This can't be correct," said High Scholar Vex, his tendrils twitching uneasily as he hovered over the display. "It must be a translation error." The chamber lights dimmed automatically as the classified file decrypted. 100 eyes biological. Cybernetic, hive-linked watched as the ancient record opened. No music, no war footage, just text. Plain. Brutal, unpoetic text. Humanity. Origins profile threat class. Unknown behavioral tier. Adaptive aggressive purpose tag. Flagged. Conflict optimized. Species. What does that mean? Asked Counselor Brez from the Galaxy cluster. Vex didn't answer. He just zoomed in, and the words appeared, "Not created for peace, not even for survival. Built biologically, socially, culturally for sustained generational conflict." Chill washed through the chamber. Not metaphorical. Real. The climate control AI dimmed the warmth by instinct. "That's impossible," said Brez. "They're barely spacefaring." "Exactly," Vex whispered. "And they still pushed back every empire that touched them." One of the archivists stammered, "Why would a species choose to evolve through war?" But the answer was already in the file. They didn't choose it, they became it. Across the stars, on a dead relay station near the rim, the original scout team that discovered the file was still unaccounted for. Their last transmission had been one line: "We shouldn't have opened the vault." The vault, an abandoned Terran structure buried under a failed moon colony, had no defenses, no power signature, just a door and a warning etched in 7 languages. "For those who seek to understand us, don't." Back in the chamber, a projection flickered into life. A video this time, short, rough, a human. Soldier, young, bleeding, laughing. "You think war scares us?" he said. "We ran toward it before we knew what stars were." Then he pulled a pin and vanished in light. The video ended. Silence followed, until someone whispered, "That wasn't training footage, was it?" Vex looked down at the species threat. Tag again, class. Adaptive aggressive risk. Absolute if provoked. Another line appeared as the archive expanded. Built for loss. Forged in failure. Survive long enough and they become what killed them. Krex, the oldest among them, finally spoke. "How much of this is still true?" Vex didn't look up. All of it. That's why they don't speak much. Why they don't broadcast culture or send emissaries. He turned to the room slowly. They've been holding it in. And then the lights in the chamber flickered. Not from error. From contact. A ping. Small. Direct. From soul. No message. No words. Just coordinates. Buried inside the data packet. An old Earth phrase. "You opened the file. Now finish reading." The file kept going. They don't seek war. They were simply shaped by it. And if it comes again, they won't remember pain. They'll remember purpose. One of the aides dropped his tablet. Another began quietly backing toward the door. Vex stared at the last line, barely audible as he whispered it aloud. They were built for war. And that was before Earth even responded. Sector Theta Red 6 had been dead for centuries. Or so they thought. Scout Commander Trell exhaled inside his exosuit, voice crackling over the link, confirming. No life signs, no radiation decay, no warp. Trails. Vault remains intact. Beside him, his tech officer Ven floated near the surface of the derelict Terran construct. It was a cube, monolithic, no lights, no markings. Just mass. "You ever seen this type of architecture?" Ven asked. Running a claw along the cube's edge. "Nope," Trell muttered. "And I've been doing this before you had bones." Ven chuckled nervously. "Still feels ... awake." Trell didn't answer. He didn't like how the silence pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. They were here because of a whisper. The kind that didn't show up in official channels. A corrupted file in an old abandoned council relay. An echo of a message the galaxy never archived. They weren't made to survive war. They were made to become it. Back on the command ship, orbiting. At a safe distance, Liaison Captain Shar watched the feed. "This feels wrong," she said. Her second-in-command tilted his head. "Because they left it unlocked?" "No," she said softly. "Because they wanted it opened. The vault had no defenses. No surveillance. No fail-safes. Just a hatch. And a phrase above it, etched in old Galactic standard. You came to see. What we are. Now don't blink." Inside the cube, the lights activated before they touched the controls. A long corridor opened mechanically pristine despite its age. Symbols lined the walls. Not words. Not warnings. Diagrams. Of human anatomy. Over and over, each one evolving, changing. First, muscle density. Then, pain resistance. Then, neural adaptations to fear. Then, something stranger. An entire wall depicting variations of the same human each. Version rebuilt, not by machines, but by environment. Scorched earth. Frozen wastelands. Bone cities. Ash. Ven stepped back. "They didn't just survive trauma. They were built by it," Trell said. "No, look closer," Ven said. "The adaptations aren't defensive." Trell squinted. The musculature reinforced. Cognitive maps. Rerouted around loss. Emotional centers pruned for aggression after grief. "This isn't evolution," Trell whispered. "This is ... design." Then the hallway changed. No longer walls. Now glass. On the other side. Simulations still running. Each one showing human behavior under different galactic war conditions. Some ended in victory. Others in extinction. But in every single sim, they adapted. Faster than any species recorded. Sometimes by betrayal. Sometimes by self-sacrifice. Sometimes by detonating the entire star. "Commander," Shar's voice cut in from orbit. "We just got a ping." "From who?" "Sol." Trell's. Blood chilled. "It's not a message," she continued. "It's a key." "What kind?" Shar hesitated. "A memory file." Back in the cube, a screen lit up behind Trell. A video played, black and white, low fidelity. A human young, wounded, sitting in rubble, holding another who wasn't breathing. He wasn't crying. He was talking. "We didn't ask to be this." The human whispered. "They kept coming. We kept changing. Until we didn't remember what we used to be." Then he looked up straight into the lens. "You still think we're primitive?" And then he smiled. The kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. Trell stumbled back. The room dimmed. A line appeared across the far wall, glowing red. "What we did to ourselves, we would never do to others, unless they insist." Shar was silent on the bridge. The crew stared at the message fed through. From Sol. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't even loud. Just quiet, slow, as if it didn't need to be anything more. "You opened the vault, so now you carry the knowledge." Another line followed. "Knowledge is responsibility." And the last, "Responsibility is a weapon." In the vault, the corridor collapsed behind them. No alarms. No damage. Just gone. Like it had never existed. The lights dimmed. A final phrase pulsed on the floor beneath their feet. They laughed. Then they stopped. Trell looked at Ven, his voice dry. "You recording this?" Ven shook his head. "I forgot to turn the recorder on." Trell didn't respond. He just stared at the empty air. Neither of us ever will. The council hadn't called a session in over 3 centuries. Not during the Melek virus collapse. Not during the Burnt Star conflict. But now they assembled without delay because the humans had sent another transmission. This one didn't contain weapons. It contained data, unfiltered, uncompacted, old, Raw. It wasn't a declaration. It was a window. The kind you didn't want to look through but couldn't turn away from. Vex, lead archivist of the High Committee, stood at the center of the spiral chamber. His hands trembled as he began to speak. What you are about to see isn't propaganda. He paused, swallowed. It's pattern recognition. The lights dimmed. Holograms ignited across the amphitheater in 360-degree projection. Scenes from Earth's past. Not galactic battles, human wars. Ground-based, primitive, ugly. A man charging into machine gun fire just to carry another to safety. City on fire while children emerged from basements holding sharpened tools. People crawling through. Radioactive snow not to escape, but to keep fighting. The Valari. Delegates stood in stunned silence. Why are they showing us this? Because they're not warning us, Vex said softly. They're explaining. The data pulse from Earth came with no instructions. No context. Just a final embedded code at the end of the video string. This is what shaped us, not what we are now, but what we'll return to if you force us. The footage shifted. Now orbital. Early Terran skirmishes in Earth's first solar expansion. Fleet on fleet. No shielding. Just raw armor and suicidal. Tactics. Ships ramming each other. Nukes detonated in atmosphere. Spacewalkers crawling across hulls mid-firefight, carrying bombs like backpacks. One alien ambassador from the Drash Collective stood suddenly. This is madness. No, said Vex, voice cracking. This is evolution. The final clip played. Without warning, a Terran officer, calm, burned, blood down one side of her face, speaking directly to a handheld cam. We didn't climb out of the dark to be liked. We climbed out to make sure no one else ever pulls us back in. Then she activated something in her hand. The screen went white. Silence fell across the council. A long, slow silence. Until the Valari spoke again. They're not warlike. They're war-hardened. Back in the Archive Core, Vex received a private message from an unknown source. Not Earth. Not Council. Just a data point. With one attached phrase, there's more. He opened it. It was a ship schematic. Unknown classification. Human in shape. No propulsion. No weapons. No heat. And yet, orbiting 5 Council worlds already. Invisible to sensors. Only now revealed. Observation. Vessel. Witness class. Verex's. Jaw clenched. They've already positioned themselves. His assistant, barely audible, whispered, "Why?" And Vex said the truth out loud for the first time. Because they don't trust us. On board Witness 14, somewhere above Council System 6, the AI quietly tracked movement below. No crew. No sound. Just one core protocol. Running for the last 6 days. Monitor. Risk escalation. Intervene. Only if triggered. Primary command. Silence. MANTANED inside its memory banks. Dozens of files remained locked. But one blinked open. Personal log. Voice. Human. Male. Calm. They're going to poke. Because they can't accept a quiet predator. And when they do, don't roar. Just ... remind. In the council chamber, another vote was called ... to blockade Earth ... to contain the Sol system with force ... to remind humanity. It wasn't. Above Galactic Order ... the vote passed ... barely. Vex didn't vote. He just stood ... and left the room. Because he knew what they'd just done. They hadn't drawn a line. They'd drawn a circle around something they didn't understand. That night, every system involved in the blockade proposal received the same signal. Not from Earth. From the witness ships. Each message contained no threats. Just coordinates. To their own military command centers. Each one accurate to within 2 meters. And one line of text. You don't want us to start remembering out loud. The first blockade ship never even made it to Earth. It disintegrated mid-jump. No explosion. No energy pulse. Just ... missing. Gone in the gap between movement and arrival. Investigators found the jump log intact. One final fragment in the AIS. Buffer memory before it vanished. Something's already here. They traced the trajectory back, not to Earth. To nowhere. Unmapped space. An uncharted gravity sink Earth never claimed, never even named, and still. Someone waited there. On Council World Vren, panic had become protocol. Emergency drills ran hourly. Children learned how to hide from warships. Instead of fire. The word Earth was no longer said aloud. It had become a ghost code, a placeholder. Threat wrapped in silence. In the deepest levels of Vren's military complex, Admiral Torn stared at a schematic. The witness ships, dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Not built like other vessels. No thermal exhaust. No signature. Just presence. He looked at the updated intel from Observation Relay 9. A witness. Ship had moved barely by 4 degrees, and a Zarek recon vessel disappeared that day. Torin touched his own chest, where his metals rested. They felt like lies. Earth still hadn't spoken. The blockade proposal remained active, but the fleets weren't moving. Too many of them were stalling. Some claimed engine trouble. Some lost signal. Others just shut off their beacons and went dark, because no admiral wanted to be the first one remembered by name. Inside one of the witness ships, something changed. A protocol activated. Evaluation, hostility threshold approaching response, minimal. Engagement, psychological. It sent out a file. No encryption. No demand. Just a memory. Recording. 2 human soldiers sitting on the edge of a destroyed city. One held a rifle. The other, a photo. You think they'll ever come back? One asked. They never left, the other said. They just don't show up till it's time to lose something that matters. The first soldier turned. Like what? A long pause. Ourselves. End. A file. Attached. A message. We were always the weapon. Vex received the file while standing in his private observatory. He didn't call a meeting, didn't tell the council. He just watched it 3 times. Then opened the hidden archive no one else dared access. Inside, a genetic breakdown of human neurology acquired during the first contact era, when Earth had submitted biometric samples for trade protocol. Results had been buried because they didn't fit galactic evolution models. Fear. Response. OVERCLOCKED. Memory reinforcement from trauma. 230%. Baseline. Adaptive violent logic under prolonged stress. Nonlinear escalation. Or, in simpler terms, the longer you hurt them, the worse they become. He whispered aloud, they don't break, they reforge. Torin called his senior staff together in secret, not to plan an attack. To plan an apology. No official statements. He said, no flags, no broadcasts. Then how do we contact Earth? Someone asked. We don't. He held up a chip. They contacted us 3 days ago. This was left in our encrypted message feed. No trace of origin. He plugged it in. The hologram showed an ancient battlefield. Human, pre-space, thousands, dead, but one stood and kept walking. The display flickered and one phrase burned across the air. We didn't start in war. We just learned to survive. By ending it first. Then the lights across 5 council worlds dimmed at once. No power failure. No sabotage. Just every planetary mainframe pausing. And every screen displayed the same line. Don't make us remember more than we already have. The screens went black. The power returned. But the silence that followed? That stayed. On the edge of soul space, a scout ship drifted close. Not to provoke. To observe. They didn't cross the line. Just watched. And still. Something appeared. Not a ship. Not a transmission. A single object. Floating toward them. A box. Inside. A Terran medal. From Earth's last recorded civil war. Underneath, a note. You still think we were allowed to survive? The blockade collapsed before it began. Not with a battle, but with a decision. One by one. The fleets turned away from Sol. Not because they were forced, but because they understood. Humanity never asked them to stand down. Never issued a threat. Never. Spoke at all. That silence. That was the loudest message ever sent. Admiral Torrin sat alone in the ops deck of Ren Command, watching Earth's orbit through a filtered relay feed. He sipped something strong. Bitter, illegal. The kind of drink you pour when you know the war you didn't start would have ended you faster than light. His second in command entered quietly. They've shut down the witness scans, she said. He nodded. Anything else? She hesitated. We got something. New from Earth. He turned. A message? No, a book. She placed it on the table. Real paper, real ink, titled in plain letters. The reason we stopped speaking. He didn't touch it, didn't need. 2. Some truths are too heavy to lift twice. In the council chamber. A new protocol was drafted. It wasn't voted on. It wasn't debated. It was simply agreed upon. No contact shall be made with Sol unless Earth initiates. No ambassadors. No probes. No questions. Because if silence is a choice, then breaking it might be mistaken for permission. Above Earth, inside a station no telescope could see, Ilya Reza watched the stars in silence. Did they get the message? She asked. Raven to 7 responded, voice low. They got the warning. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just looked tired. Like a soldier too long off the battlefield. Who knows? Peace is just the time between questions. I wonder, she said quietly. What? If we showed them too much, or not enough. Ravens. Pause was longer than usual. They're still standing, Commander. So either way, it was just enough. Somewhere deep in council space, an old research vessel was finally decommissioned. Not because it failed, because of what it found. Its final log, hidden by 5 encryption layers, read, we confirmed it. They weren't built for war, like a weapon is built. They were shaped by war, like rivers shape stone, which means you can break a weapon. But you can't stop a river. Back on Earth, a child in a quiet town looked up at the stars and asked her mother, Are there monsters up there? The mother looked down and answered gently, No, but once we were the monsters. The girl tilted her head. Did we stop? The mother didn't answer right away. She just pulled the child close and said, We learned to remember before we became one again. 2 months later, one last Witness-class ship passed through galactic space. Not cloaked. Not invisible. Just unnoticed. It left a data trail behind it. A single phrase. Set to auto-broadcast once every 1,000 cycles. We weren't made for peace. We chose it anyway. But choice requires memory. And then even the Witness ships went dark. Drifting relics. Not threats. Reminders. Not of power, but of the price of forgetting. Earth never answered anymore. Transmissions. Never retaliated, never gloated, and never spoke again. Because they didn't need to. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity wasn't the greatest threat. They were the final warning.